tape recording. See, we've just lost Max Kanyerezi, who had the thing. Then we have the first African Baha'i. We don't know if he's still alive, but he's been around at Radio Uganda, and he can tell all these wonderful stories. But how my dad became a Baha'i, those initial steps, Mr. Mutabasi, Godwin's father, the right person.
Where is he?
He's in Fort Portal.
Where?
Fort Portal.
Huh. Where was his father at?
And when will this Smiley be back?
He is camera shy, see? Guns are okay.
Yeah,
In fact, anybody got a gun? So I can calm this guy down so we can get a camera on him?
George, when is the Smiley coming
Hold a
back?
gun to him, he'll be okay.
I really don't know.
Because he used to spend a lot of time with your father. Did he go on any trips?
Yeah, they did.
But Mr. Ololo was the one who...
Maybe somebody will want to make a documentary about you, George, someday.
This is your one time to be a
champ.
champ.
You come back in February.
It's only I'm only coming back if the last thing one is treatment. I think it will. So I kind of doubt I'll be coming. And besides, that's a lot more. If we have to do that, that's a lot of additional expense. So we're gonna try to avoid that at all costs. I mean, it's gonna.
Yen will be coming back.
The stories about this guy was pointing a gun at him and threatening to kill him.
Yes.
And he's off travel teaching. But as soon as we put a camera on him, he becomes.
The camera is just like a gun.
Except it leaves a more lasting impact.
Yeah.
It can destroy you forever. He said this, didn't he?
Yeah, but it can immortalize you too.
Oh yes, of course, it can.
I was just telling them the right person to talk of my dad's early beliefs, becoming a Baha'i would be Mr. Mutabasi.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
See, you can't get...
Yeah.
Then the next one to that is Mr.
Yeah.
Nakjavan.
In fact, he tells me of the evening, before he declares, they're trying to drink together and the like, and Peter was a very hard Catholic, and so he was trying to persuade very much Enoch Olinga that he shouldn't come on. They were very good drinking partners. Yes.
Drinking buddies.
Yes, drinking buddies. And it's very interesting that the stories that Peter has, because he's actually the first Baha'i that the local spiritual assembly accepted in Kampala. Otherwise, they were writing to London.
London.
Huh. Yeah.
Became a Baha'i, it's
Yeah.
accepted in London.
Mm-hmm. So he was the first Baha'i that was registered here, and he has wonderful stories. Really, the spirit of sacrifice was really remarkable. And he knew all of the Europeans he was working with in Enoch Olinga. Like they were in the process of getting him fired from the office because he was drinking too much. And he was a very clever man, and he would get the best of the Europeans. And they were always trying to think of ways of trying to sort of push him. Yeah, get one over on them.
I think there was one case where this guy said, "You are too drunk to work."
Mm-hmm.
So my dad asked him, "Have I ever failed in my duties?" They said no.
Yeah, yes. That's interesting. And one source of conflict was the staff car, and they had assignments, you see, that they had to do, and the Europeans had to share that car as well, and so that they would blow up all sorts of stories how Enoch was abusing the car and the like. And what was interesting, that when they kicked him out finally, of course Enoch had changed by then, already had changed, but they had got so much momentum on the stories about his drinking and the like that they were able to get him out. But there was one very good director who loved him very much, Mr. White, and he went, and the new director, of course, fell prey to a lot of talk, and so they finally got him out that way. But because of this love with his director, I mean, he silenced even the Europeans. You know, so it was a really.
And what was the director of what? What was he working?
He was working in the. He was working in the. He was information office. He was translating a lot of materials for the British government into the vernacular language. In fact, his brother was supposed to get the job initially, but he never showed up, apparently. And their father was quite noted for, I think, it was the translation of the first Ateso Bible. So that was already in the family that they had quite a background.
Yeah.
And then what was interesting, that jobs were hard to come by at that time, so when he left, he immediately, almost in about 2 weeks' time, got a better job at selling vehicles. And it really got the goat of all these people who had been trying to push him up, thinking he would be, you know, having a difficulty. And then they found him when they went to service their cars. He was the one at the desk, ready to receive their vehicle. So they really were surprised. And then one, I forget his name, was traveling to New Zealand, and at that time, Enoch Olinga was well known for his speaking, and he had an interview with one of the Maori kings in New Zealand, and he was getting all sorts of royally welcomed. And this fellow sort of sheepishly asked, "Oh, I know also Enoch Olinga as well. Could I speak to him?" And I think Enoch. You know,
Wow.
so it really reversed the tables, so to speak, in the end.
The king.
Oh yes, I mean, the work he did in the Pacific Islands, of course, was remarkable. The first king to accept the Samoa became a Baha'i through Enoch Olinga. Yeah, so he did a remarkable.
The king of Samoa was taught by Enoch Olinga.
Yes. A remarkable number of other leaders in the Pacific were approached by Enoch. He's also, I think, in Finland. He was one of the first, black man to come to. You know, it was very few.
Yeah.
And it was a big experience.
Wow.
For him. And anyways, if you have a chance, it would be nice if you could see Peter, because I've been asking him very much to get his memoirs down, because I don't get them down. I don't have them very well. Though he's told me about twice. I love hearing them when I go to stay with him. I can ask Peter about his story. And he also Peter himself made quite a pioneering feat in Tanzania. He spent many years in Bukoba, and had quite a bit of sacrifice.
She does.
She knows he's a Baha'i.
That's all she knows.
Because he just recently became a Baha'i.
Right.
Well,
Does she know where he lives?
I don't know. I think she knows that he lives on that side of the house of worship, yeah, near her.
Right. Anyway, she's very suspicious, and I'm not taking any standpoint, I'm giving him a chance to be who he is.
Happiness the only justification for saying something?
Truth is another one.
If it's truth, then there's a wide variety of things that can be said.
Yes, but sometimes truth shouldn't be said.
So what's another?
You see, let's take a totally different example. In Haifa, this has nothing to do with backbiting, but it's the same situation. David said, "Jens, I can tell you all the girls that are interested in you." And I said, "Please don't, because I won't be able to look them in the eye and talk with them normally. That thought would be in my back head." And to me...
And I was like, what? You're confusing the issue here.
He said what?
It said even positive things can be used to someone's disadvantage, and therefore could be considered backbiting. But in light of the current information I had at that time, it kind of confused me. And by now, I can just dismiss the fact and say, well, you have your opinion,
Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
Is it doing that now?